Hey guys, Cliff Gray with Flat Tops Wilderness Guides and True Hunts. And today I'm going to go over my water system, okay? And I'm going to go over what I use on backpack hunts, what I use on day hunts, and what I use in camps, okay? So the first thing I'm going to cover is what do I actually drink out of. If it's in the scouting season, a summer trip, something like that where I don't have really cold temperatures, I do like these camelbacks, okay? Just basically these bags, all right? Bags in a nice tube. They can go in any of your packs. This is a specific camelback pack, but it can go in my Kafaru packs, whatever pack, and I can store that in there. It's not real bulky, and I can carry a large volume of water, okay? And then, of course, the tube is pretty convenient. The downside of this is, one, if you're not buying high-quality camelback water systems, what you'll find is they do wear out and they tend to leak, okay? They leak out of the mouthpiece, they leak back here where they connect to the bag, and that can lead to big issues if you get gear that's inside of your pack wet, all right? Or if you now all of a sudden you're just out of water. So that's one downside. And then the big one for hunting season stuff, and that is that this freezes, okay? And the way these tubes are is they can freeze on you, and it takes a lot to get them thawed, all right? And so that can be a big downer in a situation where you're trying to get some water, okay? So that's the pluses and negatives of a camelback. Most of my guiding, I'm using these Nalgene type of bottles, okay? This one you can see the label's almost worn off the thing. This liter Nalgene water bottle, I carry this on all my hunts. If I know that water is readily available in an area, it's all that I'll carry. And what you see on here is it's got a wide mouth on it, and then it's got a two-piece lid, okay? It's got a little piece here where I can drink out of, all right? And then I can seal that up, and I can put that on the Nalgene bottle. What that allows me to do is I can put unfiltered contaminated water directly in here, and I can get this lip contaminated. But when I put this on here, I can still drink directly out of my Nalgene because I have that second lid, okay? And having a smaller lid is just easier to drink out of. I think there's multiple options now, but the guys that make this, I think the brand is called Human Gear, and you can buy them on Amazon, but they're super handy, okay? And I'll go over that a little bit more when I get into some of the filtering systems I use, but I do use a double lid there, all right? And then if I'm like on a hunt, this is particularly if I'm going into the alpine where I know I'm gonna go above any reasonable water source. You know, this is usually a lot of times on goat hunts, but you can get way above timberline and other hunts too. I like to have this on my 22 mag Kafaru pack, this larger Nalgene. This is a 2 liter. Actually, it's not a 2 liter, it's like a 1.5 liter, okay? This one, it'll go right in one of those side sleeves, but it'll go in any pack or whatever. So that's another option. If I think I need somewhere in between there, a lot of times I'll carry this Nalgene, and then I'll just carry a couple just normal water bottles with me. They're pretty, those other bottles are those little, just store-bought water bottles, like disposable ones. They hold up pretty good, and as long as you're not crushing them, they don't burst on you, and they're pretty darn weight efficient actually, okay? All right, so let's talk about filtering. First, let's talk about in the field, all right? Day hunts, when I'm out guiding a hunter, stuff like that, where I've depended on getting water from the environment during the day, all right? And I do this a lot. If you think about weight in your pack, a lot of the times, one of your big weight factors is how much water you have. So I hate to see guys go out with 1.5 gallons of water in the morning, because you might drink 1 gallon of water in a day pretty easily if you're exerting yourself and you're out for 14, 15 hours. But to start carrying that in the morning, it's killer to see that. That's a lot of weight whenever there's water sources available during the day, okay? So it takes a little planning, but try to have a source to live off the land a little bit, just to give your muscles and joints a break, okay? So my go-to is a SteriPEN, all right? Okay? For a water filtration system, they check 2 boxes for me, okay? Or 3 boxes. 1, they're reliable and effective. 2, they're convenient and they're lightweight for what they are, okay? This is just a classic SteriPEN. And then this is an adventure, I think like their adventure model. Oh, I wish I could, yeah, Adventure Opti they call it, okay? They both operate very, very similar. I have heard that guys have had I have heard that guys have had reliability issues with this Adventure Opti. I've never had a problem, but when you choose, you might consider that. All right, so this goes back to my water system. And I didn't mention this, but one of the problems with running a SteriPEN is the container that you have water in, it matters. So it won't work if you're gonna run a Camelback, okay? You can't use a SteriPEN / UV light form of treatment if your water's in a bag, okay? So you actually need to focus on having a liter type of bottle if you're gonna use a SteriPEN, okay? So what I do is I fill this up, I take both my lids off, I fill this up, and then I can take my SteriPEN and I dip it in there, swirl it according to directions. The light turns on. It's going to give me an indication that the water's been treated. If I also have another water container like this or a Camelback, what I can do then, I can use a SteriPEN in this size bottle. You have to remember the UV light it can only treat a certain volume of water around it. So I treat all my water in this single liter bottle, and then I can fill these with that. So I can pour it in there. That's 1 liter. Treat it again with my SteriPEN, pour it in there. And of course I can do that with a Camelback too. It's a little trickier because they're a soft form container, but the same deal. You can treat a liter at a time. Don't try to use a SteriPEN to treat 1.5 liters of water, okay? It won't work, all right? The specs on them are specifically for 1 liter, so keep that in mind, okay? There's some of the pens you can actually, they'll have a couple different settings where you can click them up where they can do more water at one time, but just make sure that you're doing it according to the standards of the actual UV light, okay? Another downside of the SteriPEN is that it obviously doesn't filter out sediment or structure in the water, all right? So how I deal with that is I'm very careful where I get water, okay? Like I'll do it on a little, water coming over rock, a little waterfall, stuff like that. And the other thing is I'll be careful about stirring up sediment. There's a little water in there. Stirring up sediment while I'm collecting water, okay? So I want a fairly clean source of water going in here. And by clean, I mean it's still contaminated, but it doesn't have moss, dirt, and shit like that in it, okay? If you're in an area and it's very possible, particularly if you're not in the Rocky Mountains, like you're in the southern mountains, something like that, you might want to carry a little filtering device, all right? And this is like a preliminary filter, and when you can put it on there, you can put it onto your Nalgene, and SteriPEN sells these, but other folks do too. And all it does is it's got a filtering device in there. So when I dip that under the water, any sediment is not gonna be able to get through that filter. And you can see, it's just, I'm not sure you can see it, but this is basically a screen type of filter, all right? So it's not doing any filtering from a safety perspective. It's not getting any viruses or bacteria or whatever X micron size material. It's obviously gonna miss that, but it's gonna get all that shit, nasty stuff out of there before you use your UV pen on the water, okay? So consider that. Another in the field option for you guys for filtering water is the good old pump, all right? The SteriPEN is incredibly convenient, all right? Compared to a pump, it's massively so. I don't know how many times, it's probably been 6 or 7 years since I used one of these, but you can get exhausted doing this. And the other thing about it is it's hard to keep your filter clean, even in a nice clear mountain stream, and you're always cleaning these things, all right? The advantage over the SteriPEN is it will filter out sediment, but if you're using this pump to filter out sediment, it's gonna take forever to filter water, okay? So keep that in mind. I mean, for some of you guys that spend a little too much time on the internet, you probably have 4 arms of steel and you can do this a lot. But come on, guys, like this is a pain in the ass. So from my standpoint, I would avoid the pump, use the Steri-pen, but it's up to you. The obvious advantage of this is that you don't have to worry as much about sediment. It does get that out. However, the huge downside is going to be heavier than the Steri-pen, a little bulkier. And the other thing about it is you end up spending a lot of time cleaning it, and it's not near as convenient. All right, so in terms of in-camp options for filtering water, you can of course boil water. You can, the other thing you can do is you can actually treat water in camps, like a wall tent camp or something like that. You can treat them with bleach. And you can look that up online for the exact right amount of dilution if you're going to use bleach to treat water. You need to look that up. You need to be careful. Bleach is not the best thing for you. However, keep in mind that most city water is treated with bleach, so it's not uncommon. It's not an uncommon way of treating water, and you can utilize that. The other thing, you can use Aquamira, you know, a lot of those other pills that are they're basically a pill that you put in the water. It dissolves and it chemically treats the water. Those are all good options, and they're good backup options to have in your, have buried in your pack. And they're a good backup option if one of these other in the field options fails you, okay? The downside is they just don't taste very good, okay? I haven't found one that tastes good. And the other thing is I don't have any science to back this, but I don't particularly like chemically treated water because I'm not sure that if the chemicals you're putting in that water are treating the water and killing the bacteria in that water, I'm sure that they also kill some of the bacteria, the good bacteria in your gut, right? And so to me, it seems like, particularly when I used to use iodine pills, it kind of makes my stomach a little bit upset. It's obviously way better than getting Giardia or something like that. So use it as a backup and don't feel bad about using it, but that's just my opinion. I don't really want to introduce chemically treated water if I don't have to, all right? So one thing to consider, guys, is that if you chemically treat the water, it's generally going to have kind of an off taste. To me, even Aquamira treated water has a taste to it. They claim there's not a taste, but to me there is. Might just be psychological. But anyways, the other thing is a lot of the water that I treat with the UV light, or if you pump it or use a gravity filter or whatever, just depending on the source of that water, a lot of times it does have a taste, okay? And sometimes it doesn't, it's not offensive. Other times it doesn't taste, it kind of tastes off to me. And so a lot of times what I'll use is I'll put like a Noon tablet, and these are just like a basic flavored electrolyte tablet, and they fizz, okay? They add a little, it seems like they add like a little carbonation to the water, but they add a little taste and any smell goes away, all right? And then plus you get the advantage of the electrolytes. All right, so in camp there's a couple ways you can treat water. One, you like in a wall tent camp, you can always treat water with bleach, all right? If you're gonna do that, you need to get online. You need to see how to safely do that. It's very, very, very little bleach to dilute a lot of water, okay? But it is an option. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, bleach isn't good for you, but just consider the fact that a lot of town water systems use bleach. I think basically all of them use bleach to treat their water. So it's not an uncommon practice. Just learn how to do it, all right? So that's one option for you. The other option is you can boil water. That's perfectly fine in camps. If you're gonna do that, you're gonna use boiling water in camp. Try to be efficient about it in the sense that if you've got food like you're heating up that's already in vacuum packed bags, take that water and when you boil up water and you use it to heat those vacuum packed bags, now that you've got that water boiled, that water is safe to drink. So you can, if you're limited on fuel and you need to be efficient, that's an option, Of course, that can introduce some flavor to the water too, but that's just an example of how to be efficient when you're boiling water to treat it. But the best option, and it's kind of new in the last 3 or 4 years, they were always around, but they just didn't work that well, and that's gravity filters. These things work pretty darn good now, and it's passive, right? So you take your dirty bag, fill it with water, says dirty on it, fill it with water, pop it into your filtering system, okay? Hang it in a tree, put your clean clean platypus on the bottom here. Okay, attach it there, and this is gonna run water through your filter. Dirty, contaminated water through your filter. Clean water comes out. Okay, and they work pretty darn quick, actually. All right, particularly if you stay on it in terms of cleaning them. All right, this is the platypus Gravity Works. I've tried several different types of gravity filters. This is the best one. All right. There might be some other good options out there, but for me, it's been the most effective. And what I do is you can actually backflow the water through the filter that way and then refilter it. That's one way to clean the filter, and it's pretty effective. In terms of cleaning these things, there's two ways to keep them operating pretty darn quick. And when I say quick, I mean it can do, you know, multiple liters. This is a 4-liter bag. It can do that in like a half hour when the filter's running top notch. And you can, the ways that you can keep it like that is, one, avoid sediment. Okay, you know, use the methods I talked about earlier to avoid sediment for UV light treatment or the pump or whatever. Choose your water source correctly. The other thing is you can put like a t-shirt over the top of this. Wrap a t-shirt on top and then put it under water, so there's a filtering mechanism there, and keep that sediment out of there. The filter, it's gonna filter out that sediment, but that sediment's also gonna affect the speed of your filter. It's gonna get that filter dirty. So that's one thing, is just control the amount of crap that you have in your contaminated / dirty bag, right? And so that avoids having a bunch of crap go into your filter and plug it. The second thing is backflow it before it gets real bad. This is very analogous to sharpening a knife. It's a lot easier to sharpen a knife if you sharpen it when it hasn't gotten really, really dull. It's a lot easier to keep these things clean if you're preventative about it and keep it clean. You know, kind of part of your routine is just backflow it every once in a while and keep it clean, all right? But these are a great product. We use them in all of our camps, our guided camps. That's our go-to. All right, guys, so just something to consider, and it goes back to, you know, why I use a double lid on my Nalgene bottle. Is you got to remember, anything you use to collect non-treated water is now contaminated, all right? So you don't want that to be the downfall of your filtering system, and that goes for gravity filters, pumps, anything you're using. Your clean water side, like in this case on my gravity filter, I need to keep contaminated water away from this, all right? Even little drips and stuff. A couple drips of water on a rim, water in the threading, if that goes into your treated water, that's enough to give yourself or your hunting buddy or your guide, for God's sake, giardia. So be cognizant of that. Just an example of a precaution that I would use, when I was using a pump during the day to use water that I had access to and treat it during the day of hunting, I would always keep my clean water tube in a bag, okay? And the reason that is because you use your pump in your intake, your black contaminated water tube would get water all over it. All right, so you fill your water up, you get your hunter his water, your hunting buddy his water. Everybody's got clean water, okay? Then you take your clean non-contaminated treated water tube, you take that off, and then a lot of guys will throw it right in here with their pump. All right, and the same thing with the gravity filter. They'll take this whole tube off and they'll throw it in with the dirty water bag. The thing about it is you don't give it enough time for all that water to evaporate. So when you throw it into storage in your pack, whatever, that contaminated water is all over your clean non-contaminated system now. You need to keep the two separate. So that's just an aside, but it is important. So keep that in mind too. So I covered all of how I carry water and all my filtering systems. I hope it was helpful to you, and have a good time out there. Stay safe and filter some water.